Reactance theory is a fascinating psychological concept that touches on our innate desire for freedom. Coined by Jack Brem in 1966, this theory describes what happens when people feel that their autonomy or freedom to make decisions is being restricted. Essentially, when we perceive that our options are being taken away, we react by attempting to restore that freedom, often by doing exactly what we are told not to. This response is known as psychological reactance. At the heart of reactance lies a simple yet powerful truth about human nature: people do not like being controlled. When our freedom feels threatened, the desire to reclaim it grows stronger. Mark Twain once wryly observed, "There is a charm about the forbidden that makes it unspeakably desirable." This idea aligns perfectly with reactance theory, as the more someone tries to impose a restriction, the more appealing the restricted action becomes. A classic example of this comes from everyday life. Think of a teenager being told not to stay out late. Despite understanding the reasoning behind the curfew, they might stay out longer simply because the rule feels restrictive. The forbidden action becomes tempting, and they rebel, not because they disagree with the curfew, but because they feel their autonomy is threatened. Empirical evidence strongly supports reactance theory. One of the earliest studies by Brem himself involved offering participants choices between consumer products. When participants believed one of their choices had been taken away, they were more likely to want that very item, even if they initially didn't prefer it. The mere act of restriction triggered a psychological desire to reclaim the freedom to choose. Reactance can also be seen in public health campaigns. When governments or organizations push too hard in persuading people to quit smoking, drink less alcohol, or adopt healthier diets, these efforts can sometimes backfire. A study by Ringgold, 2002, explored this phenomenon, finding that when anti-smoking messages were perceived as overly forceful or controlling, smokers were more likely to resist or ignore the advice, often defending their right to smoke with renewed determination. An even more striking example came from a 1975 study by Driscoll, Davis, and Lippitz, which examined romantic relationships. They found that parental disapproval of a romantic partner led to increased romantic interest in that partner. This is often referred to as the Romeo and Juliet effect, highlighting how attempts to control or restrict relationships can intensify feelings of attraction. This phenomenon also plays a role in marketing. Advertisers may deliberately limit availability of a product or make it seem exclusive to increase its desirability. The phrase limited edition triggers a sense of urgency, making consumers more likely to purchase something out of fear that they'll lose the opportunity to own it. This tactic preys on our instinctual desire for freedom of choice. As motivational speaker Zig Ziglar once said, "People don't buy for logical reasons. They buy for emotional reasons." Reactance is not only about defiance, it's about the core of human psychology, the need to feel in control of one's choices. A study by Sylvia, 2005, reinforced this notion when participants were presented with persuasive arguments. Those who felt their freedom to choose was being attacked responded with counterarguments, even if they agreed with the initial point being made. The persuasive message felt too controlling, and so they resisted it instinctively, crafting reasons to protect their autonomy. Understanding reactance helps explain many social and behavioral patterns, from rebellious teenagers to political resistance and even consumer choices. It also highlights an important lesson: if we want to influence others, we need to tread carefully. Overly controlling or forceful persuasion can have the opposite effect. As Albert Einstein once said, "Force always attracts men of low morality." While Einstein spoke about broader philosophical ideas, his point resonates with reactance theory. Force often triggers resistance, whereas freedom fosters cooperation. Reactance theory provides a deeper understanding of why people push back when their choices are limited. It taps into a fundamental human drive to protect personal freedom. Thanks for listening. Nate.